to our 2022 edition of the Heart of a Hall of Famer. We have 2022 inductee Danaea Williams of our women's basketball team from the early 2000s. And we're pleased to profile her along with our other inductees throughout our lead up to our induction ceremony on October 7th. Miss Williams, thank you for joining us. And just talk about briefly, your outstanding accomplishments and what you're most proud of throughout your career.
I would say that just the excitement of just being a Lady Marauder. I went to Central in a time where they were switching over from NAIA to Division II, NCAA Division II. So we didn't really have a tournament, but we were able to do the National Independent Tournament, Division II Independent Tournament. So that's kind of like the highlight of, being able to get a banner. I actually have a banner up in the gym. So that, just playing basketball with players that love to play, coaches that were passionate. So those were pretty exciting times.
And so now you fast forward, and that's, about 20 years later, right? And you get the call that you're going into this Hall of Fame class. What went through your mind?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the truth. So honestly, I knew the number. I'm like 376. I'm like, that's a Central State number. And that just took me back right there. Just like knowing that number, having to use your phone to call home from your coach's office. So I already was stoked off of that. And then when I think it was you that called me and told me, it was like a pause. Like I heard it coming, but I was like, it just seemed slow motion to me, and I just lost it. I didn't even know I would have those type of emotions. I was driving, and I had to pull over. Like I was like bawling my eyes out. I was just excited. So after I got that news, I actually was like, finally though, like because like you said, I've been not almost 20 years. So it was kind of like, yes, finally. And first person I called was my mom. She was excited. I had waited. My husband, he works in the field where I couldn't call him, but I was like waiting on him by the door. As soon as he opened up the door, I'm like, guess what? So I was excited then. I'm still excited. It's gonna be a fun weekend.
And definitely an honor, well deserved. As we go through the weekend and we talk about your accomplishments at Central State, obviously we'll hit on that. But let's go even a little bit further back. Talk about your background, where you're from, and ultimately what made you decide to come to Central State.
I'll say this: I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan, by way of Chicago, Illinois, by the way of South Haven, and I love those places equally. South Haven is a little small dot, not even bigger than Xenia. That's located in Michigan, but just a background about who I am. I fell in love with basketball at 6 years old. My older brother was outside playing basketball, and he wouldn't let me see the ball because you're talking about at the time, I have to tell my age. You're talking about the late 80s where girls didn't play basketball. So he's like, get out the way. What are you doing? Get out the way. And I mean, it was like love at first sight. So every time he put that ball down, I found it and dribbled and like, I'm going to do this on my own. And that's kind of where the toughness, the attitude, the spunk came from about playing basketball. Cause it was like, I was denied it. Like, oh no, you can't do that. And like I said, I'll say I grew up in Kalamazoo. I moved there when I was like 10. And another thing, you're talking about early 90s, basketball wasn't just what girls did. I mean, so I played majority of my basketball with boys, and I would beat them. And I would tell them that I'm better than you and beat them. So that came a lot of my, the way I played on the court came from those things, like those challenges. And then Kalamazoo was a town of 75,000. I love Kalamazoo. I hope a couple of my high school basketball teammates get a chance to come to homecoming, but I'm still in contact with them. But that small community can tie you into Central State small community. So it was a connection. But my mother has 3 kids. I'm the middle child. Grew up as a single mother. Knew at an early age that I liked basketball. And it's really a funny story how I ended up at Central State. So like I said, those times in Kalamazoo, you didn't really have a girl that was that level of play how I was. So I didn't know about the clearinghouse, NCAA clearinghouse. I didn't know about the SAT, the ACT. And all I know is I want to play basketball. So, and then the coaches, they're like, okay, it's just the leisure thing you do. You play basketball. And after that, so then when I start getting maybe a sophomore, because he even had a rule like freshmen can't play varsity. So I played on a freshman team. We were undefeated. I probably played 10 minutes a game because we were just blowing teams out. And then it came like, I saw a couple upperclassmen going to college. I'm like, they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so is coming to check out this person. I'm like, oh, they're gonna see me. I mean, that was cocky, but I think it was confidence. Like, oh, they're gonna see me. And then they began to show interest in me, but I never, like I said, never took the SAT, never took the ACT, never even knew the requirements for to play collegiate basketball. So the talent was always there. So I ended up going to a community college at home. It was called Kalamazoo Valley Community College. And it was still like the separation from high school to college is still simple. It was easy to me. Just play basketball. I didn't know the levels. I didn't know the rankings. I mean, I think we were ranked #1 in the nation. We getting all this press. I'm like, I'm just playing basketball. What are you talking about? But then when we qualified for the tournaments, like the national championship tournaments and things like that. And that's when I realized, like, oh, this is a whole different ball game. I mean, I'm talking about every scout you can think of, from New Mexico State, Syracuse, Valparaiso. I mean, it's just the list goes long. And they're like, hey, you can come to our school. And I'm like, what do I need to do? And that's another thing, because when you transfer from a community college to a D1 school, it's a different set of rules there. So adversity is just something I eat and live. So of course, was able to get those college scouts to look at me in high school, didn't meet the criteria, got to junior college, got a second chance, still didn't meet the criteria. And it was more of just the transferable credits. So then after that, I ended up, I think, taking a year off or something. And the assistant coach at the time, his name was Coach Warren. He had previously contacted me after we finished our season and things like that. I think that was in like 2001, 2002. And I was like, oh, I got all these big schools. What is Central State? I don't know. Call me back. And he, like a random day, he's like, hey, I'm in Kalamazoo. I'm at your junior college. I'm like, no, you're not. He's like, yes, I am. Come up here. I'm like, no. I mean, I was very, how I am, blunt. I was like that at 20, 19 years old. So I ended up going up there, and my coach is like, Danaea, like, this is your chance. Like, you, this is your second opportunity. And he was like, yeah, I want you to come. I was like, what happened last year when you were calling me and just disappeared? He's like, we had some guards. They were guard loaded with Nakia Woods, a guard out of, I can name these people like clockwork. Nakia Woods was a guard out of Saginaw, Michigan, that I had followed in high school. I think she was Miss Basketball. And then they had this other guard, Kelly Adams. And he was like, oh, it just wasn't enough balls for y'all. And so that year, he was like, I'm serious this time. So I ended up going down for a visit, and I ended up seeing Central State basketball, Lady Marauder basketball in an open gym session. Oh my goodness. I felt just like that 6-year-old seeing basketball. I've never seen basketball that high intense. I'm talking about, this is open gym. Like, I think they were on like spring break. These girls decided to stay at school during spring break. The coaches was in the gym. Like, it was like literally 30 people in the gym. Boys were playing with them. I'm like, what? Like, it was amazing. So after the visit, and mind you, I've been sitting around not doing nothing. So I'm just like, okay, go down there. And I underestimated. I mean, they wore me out. So afterwards, my mom was like looking at me like, I don't know about this. So then we went in the office with Coach Pat, and she was like, how'd you do? My mom didn't even let me talk. Oh, she was terrible. And, after that, Coach Pat was like, you didn't do that bad. I want to offer you a scholarship. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, go home, think about it. And, let me know. I'll be in contact with you. My mom was like, nah, you need to sign that right now. Like, we don't want you to change your mind. So I ended up signing. That was the longest ride back to Kalamazoo, Michigan, 4 hours of my mom telling me how horrible I was. But that was the turning point where before I was just relying on talent. I played basketball all the time, but that was the turning point. I was determined that when I got back to Central, after I think I had probably like maybe 4 or 5 months before school started, and I was going to be in the best shape of my life, and they were going to respect me as a lady basketball player or lady Marauder basketball player. And that's what I did. I went, I don't even think, I went home. I went straight to the gym as soon as I got home. So that's how I ended up at Central State. And like I said, it's a real unorthodox way. I wasn't recruited out of high school. I didn't know about them. I never heard of them. That's how I ended up there.
And you talk a lot about, a lot of folks don't know that Central State is here in Ohio, HBCU here in Ohio. And a lot of folks don't understand the talent, right, that's at Central State. So talk about once you were here and once you said you worked hard to get yourself back in that, top tier playing shape. Talk about, yourself and your teammates, and just give us an idea of the level of talent on that team.
Okay. I'm going to paint it just like going to that open gym session. So you got to go to school. Like school starts, let's say September. I think at this time they started right before Labor Day or right after. So Coach Pat sent you a workout first day of summer. And it's not like a run a mile, go shoot 100 shots. It's like run 2 miles, do 400s, do 6 200s, do 10 hundreds. I'm like, am I on the track team? She'll call you and see if you did it. And the way that you practice, you could tell who did that workout and did it. So when you got to school, those 2-3 weeks before school, you're the only ones there. It might be at that time, football wasn't even there. So you're the only team there. And when I mean intense, you had talent. So at this time, I wouldn't say that Central State was like a second chance school, but you have a lot of players that have similar situations, like D1 didn't work out. So the talent was always there. D1 didn't work out. Maybe they got homesick and they transferred to a JUCO or so. It was always a route that players got there. So that was something that we all had in common. Like, hey, we're going to make this work. Like I said, I was on a team with some junior college players from Wayne County community that was outside of Detroit, Owens Community College. What other schools? So yeah, you just had like community college transfers was the thing when I was there. You had a couple of incoming people, and that was kind of like Coach Pat's motto, like, hey, she's going to have a mixture. She's going to have some 4-year players, but she's going to get some instant junior college transfers that's going to come on campus or come to the team and make an instant impact. So it wasn't you have a bad game or I didn't have time for that. You come in, you do what you're supposed to do, you perform. We're going to play at a high level. We're going to practice at a high level. I mean, that was just the culture. And another thing that I liked about Central is the university embraced, like the Lady Marauders were like the centerpiece of Central. So, I mean, you could be walking, you won't even have on anything Central. Your history teacher would be like, hey, you play for the basketball team? I'm like, yeah, how do you know that? Like, it was like a small community. So that was, even during season. So you got preseason, like, oh, preseason, we're done working out. Like, no, like the coaching staff embodied like basketball. You were there. Yeah, you were going to Central State as a student, but you were also an athlete. All your time was accounted for from 5 o'clock workouts to 10 o'clock. You better be in bed. So it was definitely, and that shaped me because, like I said, my community college, I was at home. I was comfortable. I knew everybody. This is kind of, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but let's say practice started at 3:30 in junior college. I walk in the gym at 3:27. Like, okay, we're gonna do this and do that. And it was okay. It wasn't as serious. At Central, you better be taped. You better be practice started at 4. You cannot walk in the door at 3:55. Like it just wasn't unheard of. 5 o'clock practices, 5 o'clock workouts. Okay, that means you're in the gym at 4:45. Oh, you got an 8 o'clock class? Okay, you don't walk in that class at 8 o'clock. You walk in that class at 7:55. And I mean, just the discipline, the tradition, the character building of that was just like, it made me who I am. Like I would say that those things I carry with me to this day.
And we're here talking with 2022 Hall of Fame class inductee, Danaea Williams, and giving a snapshot of the work behind the success, right?
Right.
A lot of folks just see the games, but they don't understand,
Right.
the work that goes into that. And it, like you said, it's not just talent, it's the work that goes into it. You talk about those teams, right? And practicing and preparing for the games. But, the standard during those era, it wasn't 20 win seasons. It was 25, 30 win seasons, competing in tournaments. You mentioned individual individual tournaments and things like that. So talk about, for you, is there a specific moment or play or anything you can remember during your playing time here that sticks out?
Well, my first year, I want to say we were like 18-7. We had I think we had some injuries, a lot of transfer players, and that was the most games that they had ever lost. And Coach Pat reminded us all the time. That second year, we were like 22-5. That second year, we had 2 La Tech transfers that played, Louisiana Tech transfers. We had a 6'3". This team was loaded. We had a 6'3" center that could dribble, could shoot. Like I said, she transferred from La Tech, was playing behind Carl Malone's daughter, Cheryl Ford. Then we had another lightning fast point guard that also went there. I mean, like, these were D1 players. Like there was no exaggeration. But some of the games that stand out to me were when we played against Bowie State, Clark Atlanta, we played against Dillard. And what stands out is, like you say, Central State is an HBCU up north, but going down to the south and playing those teams, they're just as good as us. They have just the swag, they have just the toughness, the grit, and we were winning. Those teams didn't beat us. But the atmosphere, like I remember, I don't know what game, but we were like, it was games where you would be on the sideline and the fan would be on your shoulder. Like, you suck, number 30, you suck. I mean, they'll read your stat line, like how they introduce you to the game. They knew your name, they knew where you were from. They're like, Kalamazoo, you just had to have an ultra focus, and we did. So those times, another time was when 2005-ish, some bigger schools would schedule a scrimmage with you. So we scrimmaged Ohio State, and everybody's like, we thought we could beat Ohio State. So we didn't do a score, but we did situations. We did offense, defense, 5 possessions. They have the ball 5 possessions. We'll have the ball 5 possessions. So it was scenarios like, you put your press on, they put their press on. I kid you not, I probably have 40 points that game. And the coach was over there like, what, like Ohio State coach, I'll never forget, because it was on my birthday. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be a birthday. This is going to be my birthday celebration. I'll never forget this. I get to scrimmage against Ohio State. But I'll never forget that he was like over there, like with his wad of paper, like hitting that stuff. Like, it wasn't a blowout. It wasn't like, oh, we're just going to beat up on Central State. And no. And one player on that team was Brandy Hoskins. And she's a big guru in Dayton. Like, she went to Ohio State. She had a professional career overseas. She went to a good school in Dayton, CJ. She was a McDonald's All-American. I still talk to Brandy to this day, and she says all the time, "You are the best player I played against." And even though that was that scenario, she's a couple years younger than me, but I knew then that it wasn't about, like you talk about talent. You can have talent anywhere. And that's how we were trained. Like, it wasn't NAIA, it wasn't Division II. It was, you are a basketball player, and whoever you play against, you're better than, because we prepared, we had the talent, and those were some of the memories. You have your rival games, Wilberforce. Those were always fun. Wilberforce is, located right across the street. There was we never lose to them. At that era, we didn't. Kentucky State, we never lost to them. Really, you get amnesia of who you lose to. Like, I know we never lost to Kentucky State while I was there, and I know we never lost to Wilberforce. Now, those other losses, I don't know where they came from, but just the even those rival games, people were coming to see girls basketball. Like, the game will be packed, like 5:30. They're like, "No, we gotta go to the girls' game. No, we gotta go to the girls' game." Now the boys, they'll have a good turnout, but the girls they were respected at Central State. They were respected. People knew about them, and it was a joy. It was a real live joy. And it's so, it's in the middle of nowhere. It's so small that you really, like, when we start taking that team to Clark, Atlanta, and you couldn't tell us nothing. Like, that, because we were at an HBCU, and these were good programs. They had guards that was overseas or will go overseas and things like that, but we had talent. That's one thing that I think when you talk about those coaches, Teresa Check, Patricia Tramble, Coach Trona, she passed away, Coach Sheba, those coaches know the game. Like, you got Coach Trona's from the Dayton area, Sheba's from the Cleveland area, Coach Pat's from the Cleveland area. So they sought out talent. Like, they used their resources. They found out where the talent was, and they went and got it.
And you mentioned, we're here with Hall of Famer Danaea Williams, and you mentioned those great coaches, and I'd be remiss if we didn't give them a shout out. So I appreciate you shouting out our former coach.
Yeah, I can't make it about me. It's just too many people, too many. And I already know that they, I joined them being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I'm very, very excited about that, to share that accomplishment with them.
And you talk a little bit about the uniqueness of women's basketball, playing as a women's basketball player here at Central State, playing in front of all those fans, the crowd, the student body embracing, where you don't necessarily get that at some other schools. So talk about, playing in a small gym like Beacom Lewis against a Wilberforce or against a Kentucky State. And quite honestly, the fire marshal wouldn't like to hear this, but sometimes we're standing room only. So talk about those games.
I would like to talk about the fans' participation. Like, you'll have the boys basketball team coming to your game, sitting together. We have a cheer section. The band, we had the actual band coming to our games and playing. You have people from the Xenia area that just fans that just come to the games and been coming to the games, and they'll greet you afterwards and say good game. But the fans, they'll write, they had like a t-shirt. I don't know what it said, but they had that little t-shirt section where they wait for you after the game and tell you congratulations and things like that. You see them in the cafeteria or going to class. It was always, they just always supported. Like, it was the heartbeat of, we're talking about a time when the football team was trying to reestablish themselves. So you didn't have a football team. You had women's basketball and men's basketball. You had track, you had tennis, but that was it pretty much.
You talk a little bit about the pride you have, and it's not about you. You mentioned it's about the folks, your teammates, your coaches.
Yeah.
But you are officially going to be a member of this Hall
Right.
of Fame on October 7th. So,
Right.
you know, and that means you become a model for, you know,
Right.
current and future athletes to emulate. So basically for you, if you could define for these current and future student athletes, what does it really mean for you to be a Central State Marauder?
I think for me, it means perseverance. Cause like you said, like I'm summing up everything in 30 minutes or 5 to 7 minutes. But when I think about being a Central State Marauder, or I think about Danaea Williams, I think about those barriers that I overcame. Like pain has always birthed purpose. So what I would tell them is, if you believe in you, that's all that matters. I mean, from graduating college, I took the long way. I will always say that I took the long way. I got a call after I was done playing basketball at Central. Hey, come over to play in Puerto Rico. I left school. Like, and everybody thought that was crazy. Like, what? You got to have a plan B. I don't have plan Bs. I execute plan As. And if plan A doesn't work, then I think of something else. Then I think of something else, and I think of something else. So I think that's the difference with me. Like, whatever you throw at me, I'm a winner. Okay. And that will be my advice to anybody, former players, current players. Like, you define you. Yeah, I had a good example, but it's also barriers, hard barriers that I had to overcome. I was how to put it, single. I was raised by a single mother. So it's plenty of times when I was at school and everyone's going home, I can't go home. I don't have money to go home. So, but that teammate, that culture, that family environment, they wouldn't put you on blast. They say, hey, Nate, I'm going to Columbus. Get in the car with me. Hey, you got family in Chicago? I'm going to Chicago. Get in the car with me for free. It wasn't, I'm not going to exploit you, but that's what family does. And that's what Central State family did. We took care of each other. We came, and these same people, they're an intricate part of my adult life right now. Like, this not just, the Central State. Like, no, I know I live in Dayton, that's pretty close to, but these people live in Columbus. These people live in Toledo. These people live in Cleveland. These people live in Nashville. These people, they're not all right here with me. So that I would just say, like, the ability not to quit and the ability to believe in yourself. Like, I think that barriers and adversity, like I said, it don't matter what happens, I'm going to have the long way. And I think that tests me to see how determined I will be. And like I said, it was times where I wanted to quit. It was times where Coach Pat was intense. It was times when, your game was off. It was times when life, you might have been homesick. It was other factors going on in life. I couldn't just call my mom. I couldn't just call my dad. I didn't have those resources. Coaches, I mean, I can remember, I'm not trying to make these horror stories, like everybody's role was like this. This just happened to be my role. And I'm okay with that. And a lot of people didn't know that because I didn't share that with people. I didn't share and let you, know many things. So on the court, you got a cocky, spunky, in your face type of player. Off the court, you don't know what I'm going through. I didn't even have a cell phone my first year of college. Like I said, that's how I knew that 376 number. Hey, coach, can I use your phone? I want to call my mom. Hey, coach, can I use your phone? I want to call my sister. So, like I said, those times, like by having this platform, it's just bringing back so many different things. And the only thing I can think of is I never gave up. The road might have been different. It might have been a lot of detours, a lot of roadblocks, but I never gave up. So that's what I would tell them.
Never giving up, even without a cell phone her freshman year.
Right.
Shout out to some of these current freshmen that can't live 5 minutes without a cell phone.
Right. Yeah.
As we close out this segment, and we're with Hall of Famer Danaea Williams. She'll be inducted October 7th. As we close out, we want to give you a chance to acknowledge virtually prior to our induction, acknowledge those folks that helped you along the way. So without further ado, I want to give you that platform to acknowledge those folks that you want to acknowledge.
I think I've done it. As you see, I shifted off of me because it's not, it's to get the acknowledgement, but I've always been humble. So no, I've always been humble. So the first thing, like you said, the coaches and teammates and friends that I still have those relationships with, definitely it's an honor to join. I can actually pinpoint people that that I actually know and been around them. And these people, yes, Central State, Lady Marauders, that's the linkage. But what I think is so beautiful is I know them outside of basketball, and they are just that remarkable off the court. And I think that just looking back I wasn't that remarkable at Central. Like, what I mean by that is I had some barriers, some issues, attitude problems, and things like that. So I would like to, say thank you for inducting me into the Hall of Fame, to my, Kalamazoo. I love that place. So to any little girl watching this, you will, and you are. My siblings, I'm the middle child. I have an older brother who didn't know he was introducing me to basketball, but he did. And my sister, who's always been support. Just to talk about them for a little bit. My sister lives in Dayton, Ohio because of me. My mother, I want to read a quote that she wrote on Facebook. If I can find it. If I can find this quote she wrote. I made a post saying, how excited I was about being inducted into the Hall of Fame. She wrote, "My love for you shines so much. My children fight for what they have. It wasn't given, it wasn't borrowed, it wasn't stolen, it wasn't inherited. Every struggle you went through, I wasn't there, but in my heart, I was. I love you, Nay. Be blessed, be proud, be Black." So that's coming from my mom, and just everything that she's ever sacrificed for me to be able to play basketball, which basketball is a cheap sport. All you need is shoes and all you need is a basketball. But you're talking about, she's originally from Chicago. You're talking about an era where men were coaches, and she wasn't too big on that. Like, what? You want to take my daughter to and from practice because she couldn't? And she wasn't too big on that. And I'm like, Mom, I'm good. So she was able to, trust me. And because of that, I was able to continue to chase basketball. To my kids, I hope this is a prime example of, saying when you put your hard work to something and you get results. And even if you don't get the results, or it takes 20 years for you to get the results, you still be happy with yourself. To my husband that has listened to all these basketball memories that I didn't know I had, but I wish he could see me play back in the day, but he can't. But he can listen to the stories. And so, yeah, I just want to thank my village. Thanks to the people that voted for me, and just thank the Central State University, the Lady Marauders program. Thank you.
In a story of resilience and ultimately success, 2022 Hall of Fame inductee Danaea Williams will be inducting Danaea along with the 6 other inductees on October 7th. That's Friday, October 7th, 1 p.m. And that'll be at the Marriott at the location University of Dayton Hotel prior to our homecoming game on Saturday, October 8th. Danaea Williams, 2022 Hall of Fame